The Champions League is officially back. And now I'll go through the draw quickly. So with the quarterfinal draw, it'll be Bayern or Chelsea. I suspect it'll be Bayern Munich. They'll be playing against Barca or Napoli. Atalanta will be going up against PSG. RB Leipzig will be going up against Atletico Madrid. And Real Madrid or Manchester City will play against Lyon or Juve. And we'll go to the semi-final draw as well. So this one might be a little bit confusing for you, but for the first semi-final, it will be the winner out of quarter-final 1, which could be either Real Madrid, Man City, Juve, or Lyon. Will go up against the winner of quarter-final 3, which could be either Bayern, Chelsea, Barca, or Napoli. And for the second semi-final, it will be the winner of quarter-final 2, which is RB Leipzig or Atletico Madrid. Will go up against the winner of quarterfinal 4, which is either going to be Atalanta or PSG. So we know that 4 teams are already through to the quarterfinals, the teams being Atalanta, PSG, Leipzig and Atletico Madrid. So before I touch on in regards to the quarterfinal matchups, I think it would be best to go through the remaining round of 16 ties. So the first one I have is Barcelona versus Napoli. Of course, we know that it's already 1-1. Although I think for as good as Napoli have been since the lockdown, and for as I guess you could say calamitous as Barca have been, even though they're still second in La Liga, I just think the fact that Barcelona have that little magician in Lionel Messi, I just think Messi alone can will Barcelona through to the quarterfinals. So for that reason alone, sorry Napoli, I think just Messi alone, even though Barcelona are in a bit of a, I guess there's a bit of chaos reigning at Barca right now. You could say even with all that going on, I still think Messi is good enough to drag Barcelona into the quarterfinals. So now we look at the second round of 16 tie. So we'll look at Juventus versus Lyon. So obviously Lyon are up 1-0. I think when you look at Juve since coming back, they have looked defensively solid. Of course, we forget about the AC Milan game. De Ligt didn't play. They did lose 4-2 to AC Milan in that one. They have been unconvincing at times still, but when Dybala is playing, Juve look a lot more potent going forward. But don't forget, you've got to also remember that Lyon, just like PSG, they haven't played any competitive games since March. Of course, Ligue 1 was got called off, and I think even though that Lyon will get back Memphis Depay from injury, which is going to be a big plus for them, I just think that Lyon will just lack the match fitness. Even though they have played a bunch of friendlies, I think that's just going to kill Lyon's chances of going through to the quarters. So I think Juve, just on the fact that they've been playing more regularly, and they'll be playing through to August as well, because Serie doesn't finish till August, but they could still have the title wrapped up by then, but we don't know for sure, because Atalanta is really coming up actually, speaking of other teams in the Champions League. So I think they're a chance to win the Serie A as well. I think Lazio, even though they've had a disappointing couple of games, I still think Lazio are still a chance to overtake Juve. Even Inter, you can't rule them out yet, even though they've had a couple poor games themselves. So now we'll look at the third game, Bayern Munich versus Chelsea. No offense to Chelsea fans, but I think this one's already over, especially that Chelsea will be playing away from home and the fact that they're down 3-0. So I think just from that alone, it will be over. Bayern will have not played a competitive game though since July the 5th. But again, as I said, I don't think Chelsea will be able to overturn a 3-goal deficit away from home. Even though they've got a great plethora of attacking options, I still don't see Chelsea being able to get 3 goals against a relatively solid Bayern defence with Alaba, with the defensive partnership of Alaba as well as Boateng. So I think even if Chelsea do attack and are able to get a few goals, I think the defense of Christensen and Rudiger, I think it's quite leaky. I'm not sure if it's still the case, but I believe Chelsea had conceded the exact same amount of goals at Brighton, I think, as of last week. I'm not sure if that record is still standing. But yeah, defensively, Chelsea are not looking great. And I think with a ridiculous front line of Lewandowski, Gnabry and Koeman, I think Bayern Munich will probably score even more goals, particularly being at home. So I think Bayern Munich will comfortably go through to the quarters. So now for the final round of 16 prediction that I'm going to make. this second leg between Real Madrid and Man City, I think it's going to be an absolute blockbuster of a game, and this could honestly, for me, go any way. I think Real Madrid do probably have the superior defense with the defensive partnership of Sergio Ramos and Rafael Varane. But you know what? I get a real good gut feeling about Manchester City going really deep in the Champions League. And although they are a bit fragile defensively, in my opinion, I do think their attacking quality will probably see them to be able to get potentially additional goals, and I think they will progress through to the quarterfinals. Even if Aguero doesn't get fit in time for the game, they've just been absolutely fantastic since coming back in, since obviously with lockdown and all. Even though they did cough up against Southampton, I think that may be a one-off. I think Phil Foden, Kevin De Bruyne have been absolutely amazing since the Premier League has restarted. So I think for me, Manchester City will beat Real Madrid. I guess I could make predictions about the quarterfinal draw. I'm definitely not going to make any predictions about the semi-final draw, as I feel that is particularly too early to tell, especially with the winner, especially with the game with the winner of quarterfinal 1 and against the winner of quarterfinal 3, which could have potential, which will have one winner from a potential of 8 teams, or potentially vying for those spots in that semi-final game. So I think it's just too early to predict for that one. Apologies if you can hear the aeroplanes in the background. So I guess I'll have a go of predicting the quarterfinal draw. Obviously the first game on my list here, Bayern Munich or Chelsea, which I've already said I think will be Bayern, against Barca or Napoli, which I think will be Barca. So Bayern versus Barca. Even though, like I say, that little guy Lionel Messi, even though he's an absolute genius, not even once in a generation player, once in a century player. That's how good that little magician is. I just think that Bayern Munich have been really solid this whole season. They've looked really good in Bundesliga, and Lewandowski's just been. You could argue that this is arguably Lewandowski's best ever season for Bayern Munich. I just think that Bayern Munich will beat Barcelona in that quarterfinal. Although a lot of things can change, injuries could turn up, of course, for either team. So again, I feel like these predictions are probably a bit too early to tell, but I'll still go through them anyway. Atalanta versus PSG, the second game. You know what? I'm going to say it. I think Atalanta will beat PSG. I mean, I know that they've had great players like Luis Muriel, Alejandro Gomez, but I think for me, the most underrated player for Atalanta is Josip Ilicic. I think if it weren't for Ilicic, I don't think Gomez or Muriel would have the goal tallies that they have, albeit that they have been absolutely fantastic as well, and I'm sure they would still score a good amount of goals. I just think that the way that Ilicic is able to orchestrate the attack for Atalanta, and don't forget the running fullbacks as well, that Atalanta really utilizes. I think they could potentially overwhelm PSG's fullbacks potentially, in my opinion at least. Although, of course, PSG have a ridiculous front line as well. You can't forget Neymar, Icardi, just a couple to name on top of my mind. But I do seriously think that Atalanta could potentially cause an upset here. And I'll call it that Atalanta, I think, will progress to the semi-finals. So the third game of the quarterfinals, RB Leipzig versus Atletico Madrid. I feel like this one could go either way. But, you know, I can't really say too much. It is, again, these matches aren't happening for another month. Things could happen, but you'd expect that both teams probably wouldn't get many more injuries. Maybe Atletico Madrid could get a few more injuries if they don't manage the squad properly, as La Liga is still going on. Like RB Leipzig, obviously, no more games in Bundesliga. They'll have a nice and fresh squad. But I think I'm going to go with Atletico Madrid. I think Simeone will have one of his, I guess you could say, tactical genius games where he just outcoaches Leipzig, and I do also think that Atletico Madrid do have some quality as well in that team. So I think Atletico will make it through. In terms of the final leg, the final game in the quarterfinals between Real Madrid or Man City versus Lyon or Juve, which I said earlier in the video, I think it will be Man City versus Juve. That's going to be an interesting game. You could arguably say that the best attacking lineup in all of Europe is going up against one of the most formidable defenses in Europe. I know that Juve did cop 4 goals against AC Milan in the past week, but I think the reason why Juve copped 4 goals is because they were missing De Ligt a lot, who I think for me has gone under the radar in terms of being such a solid defender. For someone who's already obviously only in his first season at Juve, for I think he's 20 years old now, so De Ligt's obviously got an amazing future ahead of him. This one, again, it's going to be very hard to tie. As a Juve fan, I really want to go with my heart, but I don't know. I think Man City, the way that they attack, they've just got so many attacking options. It's absolutely ridiculous. Plus, with of course, we can't forget as well the 5 sub rule. You're going to be allowed to have 5 players come on the field as substitutes. So I think that will probably work more for Man City than what it does Juve. I want to say Juve, but I feel like Man City will probably do the task. It'll be interesting to see if Juve decide to play Chiellini or Bonucci or De Ligt, which partnership they'll go with. Personally, as much as I think Chiellini should probably come into the team, I probably would have to stick with Bonucci and De Ligt, just because I think Chiellini wouldn't have played any games for such a long time. I think it's hard to change that over one quarterfinal game. So unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to go with Man City to beat Juve in the quarterfinals. But we'll see if that matchup even happens, because of course Lyon could surprise and hold Juve away from home, or Real Madrid could just shut down City's attack, and they could perhaps themselves score a couple goals through Benzema and Hazard, of course, as well. But overall, that's just a few thoughts on top of my mind. I haven't really put a whole bunch of research into this, so I haven't really come up with statistics, head-to-head statistics, for example. I just thought I'd be speaking on the top of my mind. And yeah, so that's overall what I think about the draw and predictions at the moment regarding the Champions League. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel if you want to. Leave some comments about what you think will happen in this Champions League. Thanks for watching, and have a great day or night depending on where you live. Bye.